From Alachua, Florida, I'm Namamrita Kaylee.
I'm Krishna Kishore.
And I'm Namamrita. Welcome to Nectar Talks, from the heart of New Ramanreti, the largest Hare Krishna community in North America.
And the home of thousands of Bhakti Yoga practitioners. In our ongoing series of live interviews, we explore a range of spiritual topics, introducing you to inspirational community members and guest speakers with diverse backgrounds and experience.
Like bees searching for nectar, we seek to extract pearls of wisdom from how they live their lives and the spiritual lessons they can impart to us and our listeners.
If you're seeking nectar, look no further. All right.
Let's get started.
All right. Hare Krishna. How art thou today?
Please say Haribol to Dhruva Maharaj Prabhu for me.
I certainly will. He just left. He's going.
All right. How are you doing? We've been trying to do this for a while, huh?
Yeah, 2 years about.
Only 2 years. A lot of it is on me.
No,
I know you had gotten a little sick at some point too. How are you feeling nowadays?
I'm good. You know, it's an interesting process, this life, because I'm now at a stage of life that in this lifetime I haven't been before, with things down, and you try to question what is the real valuable thing that we're doing here.
Right.
What are we supposed to do? I used to be a big book distributor. And then I knew what I was supposed to do. And then I was pleasing Prabhupada. Just the devis in the temple. And, you know, now it's a little due to the body, but deeper thoughts about Krishna, deeper chanting, increasing chanting.
And that's definitely one of the reasons that I've been wanting to interview you, for a few different reasons. First one is, first of all, I felt like from the first day we met on the temple grounds, you treated me like a son, and I felt like you were one of my mothers, you know, so loving, so compassionate, and just giving me hugs and, you know, sharing your appreciation for my parents. And so right off the bat, I felt very close to you. And also...
You are irresistible.
Like,
you are my baby.
Sorry, you caught me off guard with that one. I didn't expect that, but thank you. But also 10 years ago, I did a program called the Second Generation Initiative. And as part of that, I was trying to connect some of the younger generation devotees with senior devotees. And we had this big launch program at Radhikesh.
I was part of that.
Oh, you were there?
Yeah.
And well, your daughter was there too. And she's like, you know, my mom has a lot to offer for your program. You need to reach out to my mom. So I felt like I've owed this to Hita ever since. And she's right. I've been longing to learn from you and to have some intimate association with you. And the last thing is, you wrote this wonderful book, the Divine Love Trip. And like I told you before, it's my curse that I'm not a reader. However, I'm fascinated by the table of contents, which I definitely had time to read. And I can see that just by skimming through this book, there's a lot of beautiful life experience and deep knowledge that you have to share. So I'm looking forward to diving into all that.
Okay, don't have too many high expectations, please.
No worries there. So you grew up in Brooklyn. No one would have ever guessed. You graduated from the Performing Arts School in New York in 1965. You majored in theater. Skimming through those chapters in your book, you know, the first one is about Srila Prabhupada, and the second chapter is From Hippie to Happy, which is quite a famous quote. You know, Srila Prabhupada says he transformed the hippies into happies. Right. Tell us what that means for you specifically.
Oh, well, I was very much involved in the 60s, which was a very wonderful transition for most of the youth of America at that time. So there was a lot of search for the absolute truth. And many things were being experimented with. Gurdjieff, Ouspensky, In Search of the Miraculous, Bhagavad Gita, the I Ching. The people, my contemporaries, were searching for reality. We knew we didn't want to be what our parents were. Although that sounds ungrateful, but I don't think any generation wants to be like what their parents were. But working 9 to 5,
right,
having a job, and then it just didn't. That's okay, but is that the goal of life? So if you open your book to the pictures, I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to show. I don't know if it's quiz when you see it.
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay, so this is the Woodstock Music Festival in 1969, and that's me on the cover.
Wow.
And
this is Life magazine for those of you who are listening on audio only. Mother Samapriya on the cover of Life magazine. What year was that? 1969?
1969. So I was playing the flute, and we lived and it was many, many people in the Woodstock Music Festival and playing music and seeking freedom. But there was a camaraderie, and but we had high ideals with no philosophy. It was a blank. We didn't know what to do with it. So then Krishna's mercy, on somehow or another, I came in contact with Srila Prabhupada. And then there's a picture of me a little while later in Vrindavan, and that's the happy.
Well, that explains it clearly.
And that's St. Augustine down there. So
and it's funny that you're holding a similar pose with your arms stretched out into the air, looking.
I knew what to glorify.
Something high.
Anyway.
Wonderful. So tell us a little bit about how you met the devotees. How did that all take place?
Well, also, I during that time I was an actress doing some off-Broadway shows in the early 60s, mid 60s, and I decided to try out for Hare. And so I went to the interview, and I got up on the stage, and they liked me, actually, because I was a good actress. But then they said, sing something. And I don't know what to sing, because I play the flute, but sometimes people who play wind instruments, they don't cultivate their voice instruments. So I started to sing Hare Krishna. That's what I sang. I said Hare Krishna, and I started to sing with my heart and everything, and they didn't like it. So I never. But then I became a Sankirtan devotee, and I used.
But then the Hare Krishna mantra still made it into that musical, didn't it?
Oh, very big, very big.
I wonder if you're the one that triggered that, maybe with your audition.
No. That was actually one of the songs in the play Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Because, anyway, that's
nice. So okay, so how did that tie into how you met the devotees?
Oh, then at Central Park, and well, that's when I was chanting Hare Krishna mantra. Then there's another one, Central Park, which was a big place for meeting people. The people would come in, the young youth were there. We would play music, and the devotees would come. This was in, 67 or something like that. So, or maybe 66, I don't know. They came from 26th Second Avenue, and they would come to the Central Park, and a devotee would conduct some lecture, and then someone would go around with sweet balls and put a sweet ball into everyone's mouth. So I was sitting there because I was philosophizing about the Bible, and people were saying, nah, you can't. I said, this is God's word. What do you mean we can't believe it? And so I was really searching, and I wanted, so I put it all into the Bible, Judaism, and the whole program, but people were not really thinking that this is the truth. I said, well, why is God saying that if it's not the truth? Then I got the sweet ball in my mouth, and I couldn't let. And that was one of the things. Prasadam's really potent.
Right.
So, and then after the Woodstock Festival, Krishna and somehow or another, I wound up with Hitta in the streets of New York. She was just born, and there's a whole thing in the book about the Canary Islands where I was just by myself and I was chanting Hare Krishna. That's because I saw the little tables. They had the little card tables set up in different places, like in 14th Street in New York, in downtown Manhattan, and I would get books. There weren't many books, but I somehow or another I wound up going to Henry Street to the temple, and I got books. And I used to take these. There was one sheet of newspaper that was the Spanish. That was the Spanish BBT. One sheet of newspaper. And I was going to the Canary Islands every year because, alas, the daughter of my father was in prison there for, a lot of people.
Daughter's father.
Yeah. And before she was born, actually, because we lived in the Canary Islands, and a lot of people were involved in drugs then,
Right.
Transferring.
So he was in jail, and you basically raised your daughter on your own.
But I would go back to the Canary Islands, and by then I was distributing these Spanish newspapers, and I had no money, so I would play the flute in the sidewalk cafes, and Hitta, who was like maybe 1.5, would distribute prasadam popcorn. She was tied to my waist with a little sash, and she'd go from table to table. I mean, it's a heart-rendering story.
Wow. Well, I mean, I'm literally picturing, a homeless lady on the street with her kid.
Well, kind
of. But at the same time, you're distributing Krishna mercy. That's pretty amazing.
And had some friends. So this person at one point gave me a little shack with a broken down car to live in on the beach. And I was known as the Hare Krishna lady because I was just chanting Hare Krishna and standing in different places, playing the flute. And then the father was making some bags in his prison thing. And I would sell some of those bags. And meanwhile, and everyone knew me. They actually sometimes arrested me. And the policeman said, I'm going to let you off here. Don't do this again. I'm not going to bring you to the station, because they loved me, actually.
Yeah.
I was giving everyone little pieces of prasadam and chanting that Krishna. And I don't know how, I mean, the things that you go through when you're young.
Right. How old were you when at that time, would you say?
I was 24. I was 24. When I met the devotees, and I started my sojourn when I was about 19. And that's when, right after Woodstock and the whole thing. But amazing.
So
I'll just say that what we go through when we're young, just like Prabhupada says in the womb, you can't put a person back in the womb because you can't even breathe for 1 minute. No one would be able to tolerate that kind of intensity being back in the womb. It's not very pleasant. You get bit by little animals and little creatures. And in the same way, what I went through in my Bhakti program to become a devotee, I don't know if I could do that. And I never complained. You don't complain when life is new for you. You don't complain. You just accept this is what Krishna is doing. And then I found this little, in the Canary Islands, I found this little shop with a little deity of Krishna carved out of ivory. And it was, so I made my offerings and, oh my goodness. It was a tale.
Yeah.
So the name of my book, The Divine Love Trip, is that you have to go through this gruesome path for Krishna to separate you from the material energy. And I just read something in Gopala Champu, who's by Jiva Goswami, how the residents of Vrindavan were experiencing so much distress and separation from Krishna. But in order to get Krishna, you have to go to Vrindavan, whether it's in your consciousness or in physically. You have to feel this intense separation from Krishna, and then you can achieve it. So he started really from the beginning. It's been like that.
What advice do you have for those who are going through such, difficult life situations as the one you were in at the time, but who may not be able to make that connection?
Okay.
We know about Krishna consciousness, we know the philosophy, but we're not finding the shelter yet, or we're not able to process it that way.
Okay. So it's not cheap. You got to do the work. And sometimes we're forced into doing the work out of desperation. Chant the holy name. When I first became a devotee and all this was going on with me, I chanted 40 rounds a day. That was it. I started chanting 40 rounds a day. I just took whole full shelter of the holy name. I just, I figured, whoa, there's no other way. That's good for me. 3 words, Hare, Krishna, and Rama. I figured it out. I'm going to go for this because I had a new baby. I had to, all by myself, I had to do this thing. And so I took shelter of that, and there was, of the holy name, and Bhagavad Gita. There was Bhagavad Gita, the little blue book. I don't know if you know about it, that the original Prabhupada wanted to print the big Macmillan Bhagavad Gita, but it wasn't, there was some difficulty. So he printed a smaller version, which was an abridged version. They recommended it for new devotees anyway. Actually,
no, I never heard of that version. An abridged version by Prabhupada.
Yeah. Actually, I have a copy. Do you want me to just so I can show it to you? It's right
sure,
there.
If it's nearby, yeah. I never heard of it. It's really interesting. There's been so many follow-up versions of the Gita by different disciples of Prabhupada. But I've never heard of it.
I can't find it, but it was
all right,
everyone
I'll look it up.
All the old devotees know about the little blue book, and so that was available, and a couple of and teachings of the Lord Chaitanya, and Nectar of Devotion. So I would read, and then when Prabhupada, when I came back to America from one of the trips, I got the big Macmillan thing. One time my mother came to the Canary Islands and the Bhagavatam had just been printed, not the original Prabhupada's when he came over on the ship, but the other big blue books, and she got them in the temple in New York, and she carried this load. It must have been 20 pounds. And my mother was little, and she brought it all the way to the Canary Islands.
Wow.
And for me, because I was like, that was my life. And as I realized, you have to give your life to Krishna, or you don't have to. It depends upon what you want in this life. But
so if we're, we say, I think this might apply to a lot of the devotees who are born in Krishna consciousness.
Yeah.
And they weren't seekers to the depth that you were, for example. And we do accept it as the truth, but I was saying, maybe we're not always able to find shelter in it. So you're saying, it's not cheap. You got to apply the practices, reading, chanting.
Yeah. And, but Prabhupada, he's very, I see that most of the younger generation, you guys are not so young anymore, but younger, our children, the first generation Hare Krishna kids are brought up in this rigid philosophy, love Prabhupada, don't want to be so restricted. But then there is pain in life and horrible things that we go through somehow or another. For why are we going through that? Why are we going through these hellish things? Somehow or another, we have to think that this is a benefit for us. And so it's really hard to tell the second generation, well, you have to chant and read. But then there's always puja and worship. My daughter has a Shiva temple right outside the door. Chris, her husband, built this temple, her late husband, for Lord Shiva, and she does that. She does the puja there. And, I think the best thing for my generation to do with your generation is to just let you do Krishna consciousness the way you are inspired to. For goodness sake, you're a unique breed. You are a unique breed because you were forced to go to Mongol Arctic, forced to follow everything at 4 years, at 4 years old, you get up a lot like little children. And a lot of kids didn't have their parents with them. So I think that our duty toward you guys is to let you work and let you take over, hear what you have to say. And instead of, because just like Prabhupada says, until the last breath, the politicians are staying in place. And everything's becoming old with spider webs and, old mentality. And it's unfair to not hear and give you facility to expand Krishna consciousness in the way that you are supposed to expand it. Even if you don't chant 16 rounds, this will come.
Right.
This will come. There's another way of looking at things. I think it's been, but I have no power. All I can do, I remember a long time ago, I said to you, you should start the coup. You guys should do a coup because everything's old and gray hair and not seeing and dying, and you guys are going to have to do it somehow or another.
I really, really appreciate what you're saying there. I think it really is such a gift of love that you recognize that, and maybe not all, but certainly probably a good portion of the second generation devotees. And I can say that for myself, I think I wrapped up a 3-year midlife crisis, which when I turned 40, and a lot of it had to do with just that, how much I was trying to apply the practices of Krishna consciousness into a life that was so different from the first generation devotees, and the reference point may not have been fair in the way I was trying to interpret and apply the philosophy. And I agree. I think, the second generation specifically has a beautiful offering and responsibility to expand, how we understand and apply the philosophy and the practices. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
I think that from what I see, you guys have to organize yourselves.
Right.
We have now, there was Hare Krishna generation, first generation. That's okay up until now, or maybe up until a while ago anyway. But you have to take over, and I am so insignificant, but whoever's hearing me, let them take over. Do it the way you can do it. Do it the way you can do it. Become pure devotees of Krishna and do it and spread it the way you can do it, the way it's natural for you. This is good that you were saying, even if it's not the end of the interview.
Sure, yeah. So tell us about this little snippet. And
because I from the very beginning have been into individuality. I'm always individuality, because we are all individuals, and this movement is based on personalism. We're all different kinds of people. It's just like when it rains and the sun is shining, all the different growth in nature, the apples, the bananas, the oak trees, the marigolds, the carnations, what's that beautiful white flower I just offered to the devis today, which I was going to take you on a little trip.
The gardenias.
The gardenias. And all of them grow beautifully with the same food stuff, the sun and the water. So that's the potency of the holy name. That's the potency of the holy name. And because it was forced on you guys, there's like, oh. But now when you sing together and when you grow together and you let Krishna be in the center and Prabhupada be in the center, and do it with your own heart, and that's what this clip is about. Prabhupada talks of variety. He said that we're personalists. There should be variety. And not that everybody dresses the deities in the same way. You know, there are rules and regulations that you got to follow, but in that, allow yourself to bloom. Allow your relationship with Krishna to bloom. Allow that to happen. You know, and
seeing it in every part of our life. Right?
Pardon?
Seeing it in every part of our life, I think it's such a skill that needs to be developed over time. It's not easy, but to be able to really see his hand, our practice, the philosophy, the love in every situation. It doesn't always have to be when we're at the temple or while we're practicing sadhana specifically. It's everywhere.
Yeah, well, but some practice, just like everything else. If you're going to be a doctor, you got to go to school. You got to do the work. If you want to understand your relationship with Krishna, then you have to hone some things. I mean, you were all born in a situation where Krishna was present automatically, and that's a very auspicious and very fortunate. Absolutely. But yes, so a different dynamic has to be worked with you to expand your own Krishna consciousness, where you're enthused. You're enthused to give this to others, where you have so much faith. And I know Prabhupada, most of you love Prabhupada, and would fight for Prabhupada, like.
And I want to say that I have nothing but gratitude and love for, the movement, Prabhupada, all of his disciples. I mean, it's obviously, our life is
but
so blessed. Even though, like I said, I've had to kind of try to reframe things to see how do I apply this in my life. But
there has been a lot of mistakes made. There's been a lot of mistakes by the devotees because, we're not perfect, that's for sure. This first generation were the pioneers. There's been mistakes. There's been child abuse, which is like, what? There's been, all this stuff. But I would beg all of the second generation, unite with each other, see what you can do with your own cord to serve Srila Prabhupada.
I really like that point of finding what really gets us enthusiastic. For me, this podcast, as much as life really definitely gets in the way, but I find this to be such an amazing opportunity to just get to meet so many wonderful devotees in this community. And I just, I see this as a lifetime of, I'm blessed to be able to do this. I hope we can keep it going.
Yeah, it would be nice. Anyway,
so we'll play this clip right here.
Everyone has got, for the advanced devotee, to serve the Lord in a particular way, so that the Lord may be more satisfied. That is their intention. Sometimes we also have some parties in the temple. Someone wants to dress the deity in a way, another wants to. Of course, they are not transgressing the rules and regulations, but still everyone wants that I shall serve the Lord in this particular way. We cannot change the original rules and regulations, but there is variety. We are not impersonalist. Every person has got to serve the Lord in a particular way, and that is allowed. The center point is Krishna. So although there are parties, If the central point is Krishna, so there is no dissension.
Now, another thing that I don't know, is there a way that I'm going to turn off the video because I'm going to show you something that is extreme, that is also a motivation for me in my devotional life. Because I want you to see this, because this is what I do. This is an instruction Srila Prabhupada gave me when I got initiated. He told me to worship Lord Chaitanya in my home. So now I'm going to show you
Wow.
This is my Lord.
Beautiful.
Wait a minute. I can't. I'm trying
Lord Chaitanya and
Lord Chaitanya, and that's a Gaur Nataraj, and here is Radha Govinda Gopinath Ji, and they're my life. That's what I do. Prabhupada told me to do this because I had such a wild life, and he probably said, "Okay, just stay put." But of course, I wasn't able to do that completely.
gorgeous altar. Thank you for showing us. I want to hear a little bit about some of your adventures when you were a Sankirtan devotee. You have some still looking at this table of contents, I see something about Buddhist monks, Muhammad Ali. Tell us a little bit about some of your memorable experiences as a Sankirtan devotee.
Oh my goodness.
And this was, you were living in LA for most of the time period?
And I used to dress Rukmini Dwarkadish every day for 10 years.
Uh-huh.
And then I would go out in Sankirtan.
Okay.
To go out in Sankirtan means go to LAX, which sometimes we called LAX, because the furthest west you could go, and the people are like, oh boy. So, but there were some wonderful things. So, one time,
I went to LAX regularly, and I never made the connection. That's where a lot of book distribution happened back in the day.
Of course, the airport was a little old, so they remade some of the things. Mm-hmm. I remember one time that I was distributing books, and this is just one of the things that can happen to you. I gave a guy a book who was a real jerk, and he said, "Well, you just gave it to me. I'm not giving you any money. You just gave me this book." I said, "Just give the book back. You're probably not going to read it." And I don't know, I got into a thing that give the book back. I'm not giving the book back. So he was carrying the book, and he had his sunglasses in the other hand. I grabbed the sunglasses. "I'm not giving you the sunglasses if you don't give me my book." And he took me by the neck, pushed me against the wall, and my feet were dangling.
Oh my God.
Taki, who was another Sankirtan devotee, saw me, came and started pounding on the guy's back, pounding. And anyway, I let him have the book, and I dropped the sunglasses, and he ran.
Wow. Well, maybe he read it after all that.
But then there were some wonderful things. I mean, Muhammad Ali used to come all the time to LAX on his different adventures going here and there. So the Sankirtan devotees knew him, heavyweight champion of the world. So one time, Rameshwar came to the airport to say goodbye to his pal, Bhagavan, and the book distribution was going on. And I saw them. They were in the international section of the airport. So I saw them, and I saw Muhammad Ali. I said, and he was just going to board a plane. He said, "I can't talk to you. Here, take some money. I can't talk to you now. I got to board this plane." I said, "No, you have to come with me." Here I am pulling the heavyweight champion of the world, who was like 3 times taller than me. I'm pulling. I said, "You got to meet the guru. You got to meet the gurus." And I brought him, I schlepped him over to Rameshwar and Bhagavan. And when Rameshwar, because these two guys were always competing, who is the best book, who has the best scores for the book distribution. Right. So, and they were always competing. So when I walked over with Muhammad Ali, the heavyweight champion of the world, this was like the prize in Rameshwar. Whoa, no one could beat this one. No one could beat this one. So I brought him over, and there was a picture. I was going to put it in my book, but I couldn't find the picture. There I am Rameshwar and Bhagavan, and Muhammad Ali is like right in the middle. That was sweet. And then we were at the airport, international, and there used to be these Buddhist monks who would come through all the time, and I was attracted to them. I always like would speak with them and give them books, and they'd always give $20 or more or something. We had a nice exchange because they could understand that this was something important for them. Mm-hmm. And I just was really good with them. And so anytime someone would see the Buddhist monks, they say, get Sama, because I was good with those kinds of people, So I gave them some books and this and that. So one day I was dressing Dwarkadish in the temple. And they used to have in LA, they used to have the Bhagavatam class early, right after Mangal Arti. So the Sankirtan devotees could have, hear the Bhagavatam and get enlivened, because the Sankirtan devotees went out right after, like early in the morning. So that to facilitate that, the class was early. So I was dressing Dwarkadish and the sannyasi came and he was going to give the class. So he told this story about this boy who was interested in the spiritual life, and he was in Korea somehow or another, and then he was riding on a train and he saw these Buddhist monks opposite him, and they said, you come to my ashram, you come to our ashram. They were saying, you come to our ashram. And he was looking for some kind of reality of life, so he went with them to their ashram. All the way, they took the end of the train, and then they went up the hill, and they had to walk for a while. Then they took a truck. I mean, like in the mountains of of Korea. In fact, yeah. So then finally got there, and it's they're impersonalist, so there wasn't much going on, but they did have a library. They had a library, ancient books. Korean language, ancient. But he did find 2 books, The Science of Self-Realization and the Bhagavad Gita. And I'm dressing Dwarkadish and I'm listening to this. That was my thing. I gave out 2 books. After a while, you can't carry in a book bag 15 enormous Krishna books. That's gets right. A little, and so I always gave out these 2 lighter weight paperbacks, Science of Self-Realization and Bhagavad Gita. And he's saying this, I'm dressing Dwarkadish, and he said, this guy, let's call him Harry. He found these 2 books in the library. And I'm dressing Dwarkadish, and I was thinking, whoa, maybe I something. So, and I used to sign all the books. So then Harry sat down, and he went through from cover to cover, both of the books. And then he said to this Buddhist priest, thank you very much, I'm going home. He went down the hill, he walked, he went on the train, on the bus, all the way back to the airport. He flew into Houston, Texas, and he went to the Hare Krishna temple. And he wow. I'm just in Dwarkadish.
That's amazing.
I'm hearing this story. And it was
but yeah, what a mystical experience that, as you're dressing the deities.
This is something a lot of Sankirtan devotees, we give out thousands and thousands of books, and you don't hear sometimes the result of that. So anyway.
That's wonderful. That's such a beautiful story.
Sometimes things would happen on Sankirtan that was so remarkable, you wished that someone was there to see. I would always, I hope the demigods are watching this one. This was incredible, all the different things. Yeah. All right, but that's enough.
Nice. Thank you.
Sorry. I don't do much book distribution anymore, but I still am teaching and preaching. We have our Bhagavatam class that we do.
I want to hear about that. Maybe we can end with that, because that's kind of what you're doing currently. But going back a little bit, you told me that you lived in India for some times, especially in Jagannath Puri, and you mentioned that you weren't specifically in like a devotee community. I would love to hear, how did that affect how you live your Krishna
And we
consciousness
were-
now, having had that kind of an experience?
Okay, so we lived in all three dhams. We lived in Vrindavan
Mm-hmm.
for 4 years, and then we lived in Mayapur.
Okay.
You know, this was way in the beginning, and then we decided to live in Puri. But there was a temple. There is a temple in the beachside in Puri, and they were they're trying to start a temple, and so we were part of that. And devotees started to buy parcels of land. So it wasn't that we were just like out there by ourselves. There were, but nobody was coming. You know, we bought the land, we built the house, and but it was a hard project to develop somehow. Somehow we were in a bubble for 20 years. We lived in Puri. You know, we
lived in Puri for 20 years.
Years. And
wow.
Back and forth, you know, maybe even more than 20 years. But we were we were by ourselves because people weren't going there to establish the community. And anyway, that's so it wasn't exactly that we were on our own completely. It's an ISKCON project. It's an ISKCON.
I see. Okay.
It wasn't developed, and we were trying to develop it.
Got it.
But it was very profound, because this is where Lord Chaitanya spent his last years.
Right. I've never been to Jagannath Puri, so I've been to Mayapur, I've been to Vrindavan. That's the one, you know, of the main holy lands. I haven't been there, so I'm really curious.
Very wonderful.
Tell us a little bit, you know, for someone like me who's never been to Jagannath Puri and you've lived there for 20 years.
Yeah.
What are some of the takeaways that you could share?
This is the Puri section of my book.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, there was a lot. You know, you go through so much, and anyway, you come to a part of your life where, having used so much energy to try to develop different things and push on this movement for Prabhupada as best as you can,
such a life of dedication. I'm so grateful.
Well, then you see, you can't do what you used to do. So what are you supposed to do? There's another step. There is another step. You can't understand it until you get to this place in your life, that there is another step. And that step is going deep into your heart, into Krishna consciousness, into the holy name, and developing that internal relationship with Krishna. And you can only develop, like, you can only go to Krishna if there's if you feel this intense separation from him. So that has to be cultivated. You can't do it when you have so much energy to do so many other things that.
Right. Oh, that's such a beautiful thing that you're highlighting, because I mean, I'm only 44, but I have chronic back pain, and so I'm experiencing a little bit of what every older person must go through at some point, where you can't do certain things you used to do, and that's just going to get more and more as you age. And so it seems like a big grieving process, but I love how you're showing us that this is finally the opportunity, the time where not only should you, but you may not have a choice but to go internal and just really finally get into the deep, you know, parts of your heart and trying to connect on that level. Because right now I'm in a place where I'm like, I can't do that. I have so much I'm managing externally, you know, between a career and family and health and doing some service and trying to practice sadhana. I feel like, where is the space to go internally? And I, you know, of course I do manage to process certain parts of my life that way, but I like what you're giving us there, that, you know, the time will come where, you know, life just kind of takes its new phase where that's all you can do.
There's another thing that we have to get over the lamentation of it,
Mhm.
and understanding that this is an essential part of our path back to Godhead. This is, if that's where we want to go, this is, we have to pay attention to this. We have to pay attention to our internal absorption. Did you ever hear a singer who was really famous in the past, and like he's in his 70s and 80s trying to sing now, and it doesn't make it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's time to do something else, not like retire from life.
You know what? It's so funny you say that. I grew up in the punk hardcore scene, and there's this band called Suicidal Tendencies. What a name, right? I was a fan of, and just yesterday, I was watching a YouTube video of them playing, and they're a lot older, and the lead singer he's kind of has his signature stage moves. But now he's older, you could see he's out of energy, and he's doing those same moves, and it's just like, wow, I can really see how he is just pushing so hard to get that same persona to show up on stage. And clearly, like, it's not as cool and natural as it looked when he was, you know, in his late 20s when I saw him on stage. It's funny, it just reminded me of that.
It's true. And we have to understand that there is something more that we have to do. And we could only do it when we have the realizations of having a lifetime of Krishna consciousness. Even if you don't have a lifetime of Krishna consciousness, you become a little wiser when you're older, hopefully.
Yeah.
If you do have Prabhupada to follow, you know, that it's our duty. It's our duty to take the next step, to, like, what we're doing for the summer. We just came back from the beach. In fact, you've been trying to get me to do this interview several times. I went to the beach to recover from something. So, it's just a very wonderful thing to give yourself time to get deep into some far out transcendental literature and the holy name. So we just came back from that. We were gone for almost 2 weeks, and reading Gopala Champu by Jiva Goswami. Oh my goodness. It's a Krishna book, but it's like a little bit more developed, and gives you so much hope, you know. But when are you how can you cultivate a desire to do this, really, unless you've come to some realizations that you have, it's okay to do it. See, that's what the old generation, we have to know that it's okay to go deep into this stuff that has been presented to us by Srila Prabhupada, all these books of the Acharyas, and to get into our relationship, our personal internal relationship with Krishna, that this is needed. And then people might say, well, Prabhupada didn't set that example. Look at Prabhupada, look at our condition when Prabhupada was present. We were very immature, and we didn't know much of anything. And after a lifetime of chanting and reading and serving and preaching, we have had to come to some realization that now is the time to go deep into our Krishna consciousness. And that's our contribution at this point. This is, you know, because we're the first generation to become Krishna conscious in the West. So what do you do at this point? Be a singer who can't sing anymore? Or do something that actually will be helpful to the world? Show by example that this Krishna consciousness, make it everything to you. We've been making it everything to us. Allow ourselves to take these steps. And it doesn't mean that we just have to go off by ourselves, although sometimes that's actually recommended. For the Vanaprasth, it's recommended in the Bhagavatam. We just read it in the temple. The Vanaprasth performs austerity, reads the scriptures, and has philosophical conversations. So that requires time. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to do that. You have to practice and go through the steps of cultivating your taste for this kind of different kind of life than that we had when we were your age.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting to say all that, but actually, that's
Oh,
right.
well, you have a whole chapter about the aging process in the book, and honestly, I really want to go read it. I'm looking at the different subtitles there: cultivating renunciation, let's cheer, the lines of time. So yeah, to me, I am just fascinated, and I'm so inspired and encouraged by senior devotees like yourself, who you've seen life, you've practiced, you've applied Krishna consciousness, and you have so much to share about the truth and the reality of this process.
The thing that, that I would like to share most is encourage everyone to chant the holy name somehow or another, whether it's japa, whether it's kirtan. This is the Yuga Dharma. This is the way we develop pure love for Krishna in our hearts. But then there's other things, because there are 9 processes of devotional service. And anyone, Prabhupada said many times, will lead you to the desired goal. But I see that the young people love the kirtan, love kirtan. So continue that, and then make a coup. Take over. You're going to have to take over anyway.
I love that. Personally, I don't think we need a coup, because I embrace everything that you've all given us, and I just want to contribute. I want to add to it, expand. We all have so much we can offer. Service is unlimited. That's what I find.
It is. It's unlimited.
And for every single one of us, it's unlimited. We have all so many opportunities to serve in ways that can just make us so thrilled about Krishna consciousness. I truly believe that. So
also, another really important thing is to encourage. You can't get anything from anyone if you discourage them. We have to encourage each other. We have to. You can't say you're this, that, and that, and you should do this, this, and this. I mean, that's not how to encourage each other, obviously. And we lose people like that, especially our youth, which is not youthful anymore, but we call you youth.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, no matter what, even if we might identify, well, this person is doing this, should be doing this, it is our duty to find the words, the language that is only going to let them feel loved and inspired and encouraged and accepted for who they are and what they've been through. And I think it takes a mature devotee to be able to do that,
I would like to read you a poem from my book.
Yes, by the way, I noticed that there's a lot of philosophy that you've included in your book, and most of that is in poetry, which is so beautiful. And of course, I know you for a lot of beautiful poetry that you've posted on your Facebook and contributed to different temple events. So I just wanted to thank you for that beautiful quality that you have of writing poetry. Go ahead.
Well, wait a second. I'm looking for it. Oh, here it is. There's so many poems, but let's see. This is called Instrument, and it's in the chapter Accepting Krishna's Plan. Okay. I pray to be an instrument, pliant in your hand. Whatever note you wish to play, I will understand. What is the nature of a servant? To what does he aspire, if not to satisfy the Lord, fulfilling his desire? An enthralling melody, kirtan, fills the air. Immersed in love and ecstasy, we dance without despair. The holy name resounds aloud, filling time and space. Play me to the highest tune that I've yet to embrace. You move me to compassion, and thus my heart extols. Rallying, I declare to all conditioned souls, the Lord has come to give us hope, bewildered lives to tame, to save ourselves from Maya's tricks. Call upon his name. There is a gracious concert. We sing with harmony. Every soul who gives his life plays in this symphony. Krishna is the grand conductor, molding us like clay, preparing us to join with him. He knows for what we pray. Sometimes the song he makes us sing brings us to our knees. As we cry our broken hearts, we beg him to appease. There is a yearning deep inside that now begins to grow. No one else can quench this thirst, and only he can know. Let me be an instrument enthused I play your song and glorify your holy name. For this sound I long. But if you choose to crush me in your divine embrace, then keep your feet upon my heart in their rightful place. Hare Krishna.
Wow.
I cry a lot.
You're gonna bring me to tears. Tell us a little bit about your writing process. Do you remember when you wrote this and how did it come about?
Oh my God, I've been writing for so many years. I don't remember this one. There are other poems in here that I remember when I wrote it. I mean, this is it's recommended to write. It's part of our purification.
One of the qualities of the Vaishnava is it 26 qualities to be a poet? Yeah. So what, just because I'm just curious, is it just inspiration just kind of hits you out of nowhere and you sit down and you write it down, or do you make an effort to?
Nothing's out of nowhere. You have to be contemplating things. Usually when you're tortured in your heart, then you start to with it.
So are these like prayers?
Most
they're like prayers that you're writing to Krishna.
Or prayers. And some of them are comical, actually. I'd write a few. I like to make comedy. You gotta have a sense.
That's really inspiring. I love this idea of, not that I'm a writer, but I like the idea of, because so much of this process and what I find intriguing and not easy about the process is this idea of, how do I surrender to Krishna? It's all about surrendering to Krishna. How do I practically do that? And that's a really good example. I'm having a hard time about something. Let me sit down and write down a letter to Krishna in the moment.
That's nice. That's nice.
That's way to surrender.
I also was asking the same question in my life. What is devotional service? What does Krishna want me to do? What is it? I mean, but actually, whatever situation we find ourselves in, this is what Krishna wants you to do. And we're very good, us conditioned souls, in manipulating or trying to manipulate the material energy to be in our favor. I know all of us have had experiences like that, but sometimes it's not successful. More than not, it's not successful. So surrender means do what you're doing for Krishna, accept your life the way it is, see how you can improve yourself, understand this is not a playground. This is not what in the beginning, maybe you think it's a playground, but there's serious stuff here.
Yeah.
We don't want to come back to this world. The world is getting worse, and we want to take full advantage of this benefit that we've been given by Srila Prabhupada. Somehow or another, if people would just read his books, forget, this is that you associate directly with the pure devotee when you read Srila Prabhupada's books. And it tells you how to do everything. And we have to also, that's the first process of surrender, is to understand we don't know anything and hear from the pure devotee what we're supposed to do in this very chaotic world, in our very chaotic life.
Yeah.
When we're at the ocean, I was looking at the ocean. I remember I told you we saw the dolphins. That was so cool.
I heard the dolphin. I didn't see it, but I certainly heard your reactions to the dolphin.
But the ocean is so vast. That is a magnificent thing. The ocean, the sky, and you actually get a little bit of a hint of your insignificant self. It's such a big ordeal, and it's I got to do what I did, and it's like, what were you? You could be scratched out in 1 second. See things in the right perspective. It doesn't mean that we're worthless, no, But usually our misconceptions and traumas and things that we go through, this is what it is. Do it. We have to be a mensch, right? You're a Jewish boy, right? You know what mensch is? A mensch is someone comes up to.
I learned that word from Mother Mukia. Yes, she likes to call me a mensch.
Good, you are. You got to be a mensch, because what's the point? You're here. You're alive. Do something with your own conviction, from your own self. You know, discover who you are. Who's going to discover who you are? Someone else? You know, I'm really good at being me. If I try to be you,
right,
I'm going to really. It's not.
Yeah.
Gonna
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm getting a little tired.
Well,
that happens when you get old. Hare Krishna.
You're doing beautiful in your senior years. Don't worry. Just tell us a little bit about.
I want to use you as a reference. I'm going to use you as a reference now. When you stand in front of Krishna. No, I'm sad. Go on, darling. What? Sorry. You forgot.
Very grateful. No, I didn't forget. I wanted to know about. Maybe we can end with this online Bhagavatam course that you're doing with your husband. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, this is interesting because we started doing, online courses about 2010. And we did the whole Bhagavad Gita, the huge Bhagavad Gita. We did that. And we had students, and this was before Zoom. So sometimes we had these chats. That was our weekly chat for a review for our students. And when we went to Puri, the electricity is like really terrible. You know, sometimes it goes out, sometimes it doesn't go out. It's unreliable. And we tried to set up a chat, but we set it up in the middle of the night in Puri. It was the right time in America.
This is when you say chat, it's like a phone chat?
Chat means you write something in the computer and
I see.
You see it. They don't even use that anymore. So that's how we would communicate. And, my husband makes the courses and I've helped him often. It's the Bhagavatam. We did the first canto a few years ago, and then we do the second canto. And we just finished the third canto. It took us 3 years to do.
Wow.
And so we have assignments for the students to read like twice a week. There's a certain amount that you have to read online. And then there's a forum question for you to think about while chanting, while you're, just give yourself time to think about what these verses from the Bhagavatam could mean. And then write something. And there are other people who write also, so everybody sees what each other writes. And then we just incorporated this mostly during the COVID time, that we have the Zooms. And every Saturday morning we have a Zoom with our students. It's very interactive and very sweet. So people have been studying.
Fantastic. Is that something you have to enroll in, or is it?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you. You go to sadhusangaonline.com.
Okay.
sadhusangaonline.com, and then you can you see the courses, and you can read about it.
Got it.
And also my book, which is actually it came out just when COVID was there, so it was pretty hard to distribute. That's Krishna's mercy on me. I couldn't distribute so many. But we did do the ebook. You know, I printed 1,000 copies, and they're pretty much all gone by now. I have like 15 or 20 left, but it is.
Congratulations! That's wonderful.
It was only 1,000. That doesn't. But anyway.
Sounds like a lot to me.
If anyone wants it, you can go on Amazon to get it.
Amazon. And didn't you also do an audio version of it?
I didn't. I did some poems in the audio. Anyway.
Okay.
We have audio actually in the sadhusangaonline.com thing. There are all the different, my husband and I have been reading all the courses. So people go online to hear that. I don't know. Oh my God, you know what? I'm going to have to ask my husband if people want to go on there and see where they can access those audios.
All right. Well, we have your website, and then this book, Divine Love Trip, is available on
Let me
Amazon.
tell you how to get it on Amazon if you want to.
Sure.
Just you have to look up Samapriya, the Divine Love Trip. That's
Okay,
it.
got it.
And then you'll get it.
Fantastic. Well, this has been a wonderful discussion. Thank you so much for sharing about your life, your amazing journey, your beautiful adventures in Krishna consciousness. And I'm taking a lot of
Thank you for doing this, because
wisdom on your
this is a very important thing for all the devotees. You know, maybe it'll be meaningful that to see the preceding generation and what and how Krishna consciousness has affected our lives, and to encourage everyone, just do it for Krishna. Just be yourself for Krishna. He created you. He wanted you to be you, right? Just do that nicely. Try to get a taste for some kind of devotional service, and then perfect your life.
You give me a lot of hope in Krishna consciousness for my own life. So thank you so much. I'm sure everyone's going to really appreciate what you've given us here today. And I look forward to seeing you around the temple or somewhere. Get my next hug from you.
Let's go back to Godhead. I heard there's a boat leaving soon.
If anything, we'll meet back in Godhead. Yes.
Let's go. Okay, sweetie. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mother Samapriya. Hare Krishna.